Perseverance. Like that's really the only thing. There's I mean, if you talk to entrepreneurs, they'll tell you that the only way that they succeeded was to basically that they just didn't give up. We all go through ups and downs, and it's the downs that really make you successful. You learn from them, you build from them, and you just get stronger, and you know what to do, and it just kind of propels you and the company.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast. Super excited to be with you. Shawn and Lacey here, just as we are each and every week, diving into topics that are very relevant for all of you who are working on your business, attempting to expand and grow your business, trying to reach even more people, make an even bigger impact, and of course, to create the lifestyle that you deserve. And we are very blessed to have with us today Anthony Miller. Goes by Tony, but I always like to say, like, from the jump, if you're looking for him online, you're going to find him more by Anthony than Tony. If you're having a drink with him, I guess you would
probably call him
Tony. And he is an absolute expert. I'm excited to learn about this whole his business and what he does and how we can apply this to all of us that are trying to improve our businesses, trying to reach even more people, and get not only our message out there, but our services out there, and do it in a way that's seamless, that's effortless, that's elegant, that's easy to use. And I'm wondering how all of that influences our prospects and what it causes them to think about us, and how those elements contribute to higher conversions, more sales, and more revenue. So let's bring Tony Miller in from Miller Media 7. Tony, welcome to the None of Your Business podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So we always begin with this one question, and then who knows where it goes from here.
Fantastic.
And this is actually going to be very interesting for all of our viewers and listeners, because they may not understand in depth, but I hope that by the time we get done, they have a very full understanding of what you guys do over at Miller Media 7 and how you end up here. So, I always say that when you're listening to a podcast, you come to know somebody, you're like, well, of course, for Tony, it was a piece of cake, because his father probably worked in the industry, just handed him over, the keys to the kingdom, and off he went. And of course, that's why he's here on the podcast. And what we know is that's very rarely, true, if ever, the case. Tell us about your journey. How did you end up being so successful in this particular line of work?
Perseverance. Like that's really the only thing. There's I mean, if you talk to entrepreneurs, they'll tell you that the only way that they succeeded was to basically that they just didn't give up. We all go through ups and downs, and it's the downs that really make you successful. You learn from them, you build from them, and you just get stronger, and you know what to do, and it just kind of propels you and the company. So like for us, I actually started the company more like I started really consulting first for in the PR space. Like it was actually a PR company. I just happened to have a lot of connections down in New York City. I knew a lot of producers, and I knew a lot of people in the dailies down there doing print and online. So I positioned a few brands in there for about 8 months, and I really just didn't like it. It was just like it was so transactional, and whatever like was the flavor of the month got the most sort of like eyeballs, and I just kind of felt like it was kind of fake. So I always had like interest in technology. I had a little bit of a technology background, design background, so I just kind of like poured the rest of my time like building processes that worked, finding team members to work that would work with us, and eventually become great employees. And yeah, that's pretty much like how we got through there. Like, there's definitely a lot of growing pains, but kept with it, and um, here we are today.
I think that's always, and I love that you talk about that, the perseverance, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, because I think so many people, no matter what industry they're in, if they're running a business on their own, they go through all of those things. Those
Yeah,
growing pains are definitely like the hardest. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs we talk to at some point in their career, they're like, man, I could just stop this today. I could just quit. Like,
yeah,
what for you? I'm sure you had those moments because you just laughed
yeah.
about it, but like, did you have those moments? And what for
Oh yeah.
you was the reason that you kept going?
I wanted to architect my life, basically.
Mm.
Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to say, okay, here's how I want to spend my time. I don't want to spend my time commuting to a job. I don't want to spend my time away. We're a remote first company. I founded the company that way. So everyone has kind of dominion over their lives a lot more. And that's really why I wanted to do it, because I wanted to be there for my kids, for example, if they had like a basketball game or dance or whatever it may be. I wanted to be able to take that time to spend time with them and to learn other things. I feel like when people are in corporate jobs, for example, they're so focused on that one thing that they miss learning just so much about the world. So I'm often a very curious person, so I wanted to be really well read um, on a bunch of different sort of topics. And owning an agency actually forces you to learn that too. So we have clients from all around the globe in various industries. We're pretty agnostic with our client base, and that keeps things interesting. It keeps employees interested in the work as well. So, yeah,
So tell us, to fill in everybody who's wondering, then what exactly is your company? Tell us about Miller
yeah,
Media,
I got the pitch for
what you
you.
guys do,
I love
and tell us
it.
all about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so I like to describe us as an experience design, product development, and growth marketing agency. So those three buckets are where we excel in services. We typically work with enterprise clients and brands, but we also kind of work with a few high growth startups every year. We'll take two or three on to help them. I also mentor for a VC in the upstate New York area. So I do talk to their portfolio companies often, and I also do help with deal flow. I work with about six other VCs and help some startups get in there for fundraising. So depending on what sort of there's all sorts of different sort of criteria that go into that. So most of these VCs I work with have their own charter. Basically, what that means is like one only invests in female founders, or one only invests in companies in New York State, or one only invests in B2B SaaS. So I kind of like, so basically, whatever founders I'm talking to that maybe are looking to raise Series A, I can kind of steer them to the right VCs.
I love that. One of the things I loved on your website is you said that you're a particle beam splitter, dragon hunter, and all around nice guy. So
Yeah.
super, super. I loved it. It
Yes.
made me laugh. But
Yeah.
I was thinking, gosh, that's so creative. And then I was just reading about you, and it talks a lot about your ability to constantly innovate. And I'm always fascinated with people that are on this drive, this road to continually innovate the things that they're doing. So tell us a little bit for you, maybe like what are your secrets to innovation? Like what allows you to be able to stay in that space and be the head of your business and continually grow and innovate in your company?
I mean, innovation to us really means like problem solving. So when a client has a problem, like, can we find a way with technology to fix it, or can we find a way with marketing to fix it? That typically like gets us going and gets our ears perked up to create a solution that works for them, and then maybe that's something that they own. Like for example, if we create a technology product for them that doesn't exist, it's solving a problem for them, but it's something that they could even in themselves turn into a business within their chosen vertical if it makes sense. Like if you're experiencing this problem, what I mean, there's probably other companies that are as well. So we try to find ways that you can solve problems with technology, and also maybe even spin out new sort of startups within your own larger company that maybe you never thought that you could before. We're kind of the team that will help do that for you. Um, right now, we're working on a really interesting joint venture, actually, in the kind of like in the music space. It's super interesting. I have a few friends that are neuroscientists. They came up with the really like engine that drives this product, but it's basically for musicians and also for record labels to help artists create more music using this really interesting algorithm that they have. It's called I don't think I can release the name, but maybe for another episode I'll let you know. But essentially, it'll help artists create more music, which is a huge problem in the record label industry, getting that sort of productivity out of all your artists. So um, there's innovation all around us. There are opportunities all around us, and you just have to sometimes just ask the right question.
Hmm.
So, in your experience, because obviously just hearing you answer this is something that comes supernatural to you. You're like, it's just innovations everywhere. What do you say to people who have a hard time with that? I know a
Yeah.
lot of people, we like to pigeonhole like by age or stuck in their ways, but it's
Yeah,
also just in general. There's younger people that have a hard time. They our minds can only think in one way, and then they meet someone like you, and they're like, oh my gosh, Tony, you're just you're going too fast. You're saying too much. How do you help to bridge that? Because the inability to get there is honestly something that can paralyze the growth of a company.
yeah. I think you need to start really small. So a lot of these companies that like the Facebook, the Googles of the world, or Meta, they started with solving like a very small problem. So I think like when you talk to young kids and they have a small problem to solve, obviously solving that one problem doesn't make a business or an organization, but it can lead you down the path to creating a suite of products that maybe um, are tertiary to each side of that problem, and maybe can build something within that industry. So start small, start with a proof of concept, and try to solve that one problem, and then continue talking to your stakeholders that this problem is being solved for, and dig a little further. Maybe you'll find more problems that you can kind of create a suite of products around.
One more to piggyback on that, because you mentioned earlier that you work with a lot of these companies that are not that that's the primary business. I did catch that you kind of that you do that sort of out of the goodness of your heart, the benevolent side of you, with some of these emerging companies, matching them up with private equity or VC money. What in your experience have you seen are some of the biggest obstacles that these startups face, and especially because you kind of see it from both sides when you're going to VCs? What are some of the things that they're like, hey Tony, like this company is lacking in this area? What are some common pitfalls that you've seen?
I see some companies that are solving a problem for a market size that's too small. So most VCs like to see, okay, what's the addressable market for this problem? I've heard that like 300 billion would typically be like, um, you know, the ground level, and then up through there. So people are solving problems for an addressable market that's like $10 million. You are not going to get invested in. It's too risky, and it's just not that interesting enough. So make sure you're tackling problems for large addressable markets. $300 billion seems like a pretty. You can find lots of lots of opportunities for that addressable market. So we kind of talked through that. I also talked to founders. If you're a solo founder, it's going to be a lot harder for you to raise. Um, VCs like to see that you have a team behind you, a team of founders, people that believe in this, who have like left their corporate jobs or are willing to leave their corporate jobs and work on this problem for the next 18 months. So single founders, it's going to be a lot harder for you to raise money. As of late, everyone's nervous about what the economy is going to do in the next 18 to 24 months. So um, VCs are they're kind of like not spending as much. So they're trying to be wiser with their dollars now. So I'd say make sure that addressable market is large. Make sure that you have stakeholders or customers that are already piloting your product and are willing to spend money on this. Would be probably my like three things I would tell early founders.
So really interesting just listening to you and learning about you. It looks like that you have done a lot of amazing things in your career and continue to do so. And one of the things that impressed Tristan, who is on our team when he first met you, was just your openness and willingness to connect him with other people. I
Yeah.
imagine throughout your career, a lot of what you've been able to accomplish was also based on your ability to connect with people and
Yeah.
really work on building relationships. Can you tell us a little bit about that and any tips you would have on somebody that's just getting started and doesn't have the relationships built?
Yeah, network is super important. It's something that I've curated over the last 10, 12 years. So yeah, there's no time like the present to start curating your network. A lot of people say your network is your net worth. So make sure that you're talking to the right people. I can't tell you how many times early on I took meetings with people that just weren't right for me to be wasting time on. So make sure you're talking to the people that can make an impact, can make it quickly, and keep on curating those relationships. I remember like when I was a kid, I had the same sort of notion. Um, I guess yearbooks were a thing. I don't know if yearbooks are a thing anymore in like middle school or high school, but I wanted to get everyone's signature, and I wanted to have something for the history books, really. So curating your network early is important, and just get out and talk to people. It's easy to do, and I you'll get over the anxiety the more you do it.
So one of the
I
things
gotta
I
say though,
see,
before you go, I love the yearbook reference. I actually
Yeah,
don't know if they have yearbooks anymore,
I
but
don't know either.
I remember going out there
I think they do.
and working so hard to make sure everybody in my class signed my yearbook. Didn't you
Yeah,
do that?
Yeah, I think they have
I think
yearbooks.
that's the original networking. I love it.
yeah,
It's like OG
totally.
networking. It's good.
So this is another one of those, Tony. You're like, oh yeah, just go out there and talk to people. An exact question that I get a lot. So someone like yourself, and I would imagine, hearing your background, that a lot of this, the natural ability of this, is not just like inborn in you, but from your previous time in the city, PR. That's a lot of who meeting people, etc. And
Sure.
so you've acquired that skill. As people are working on, because people are really beginning to understand and appreciate the value of relationship capital, one of the things that people say, there's two main issues that they have. Number one, let's say somebody's meeting you, you're a very nice guy, approachable, but they know who you are, so they're like, yeah, I'm not just gonna come and be like, hey Tony, can you help me? So no, number one, people are like, well, how do I approach someone like Tony? Number two, you are very nice, as are a lot of people who have found success. And you may at some point say, as I'm sure you do, like, well, John, well, how can I help you? And a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know what to say. When somebody says that, like, I don't like, what should I ask? How do I do that? So those two things, how do I approach someone that I know who they are and I know how important they would be for me as a relationship? And two,
Yeah.
how do I go about answering the question when somebody directly asks me how they can help me?
Well, I think like most people are there to help. Like most people want to help. And I don't think a lot of people know that. They think that everyone's playing it close to the vest. They're trying to, succeed for themselves, and it's all about them. But most people really like helping others. So I would say, approach a mentorship group or something like that. I'm in one. I'm in a design mentorship group called ADP List. Um, there's many people that will take 2-3 hours out of the week and talk to someone that's developing their career, or someone that's looking to maybe transition to a different career, and maybe that you have some like distinct knowledge in that. So I feel like for questions, like, you just want to keep it kind of open ended. If you have something specific that you want to talk about, people are busy, so maybe throw those questions ahead of time so that person has some time to think about it before hopping on a Zoom call or something with you. But my experience, most people are there to help. They want to help. It's just about finding the time to get together. Sometimes people will, like, miss a scheduled meeting or something like that, and you'll think, oh, they probably don't really want to talk to me. It's just that, people are busy. They will make the time. Just be persistent.
So I'm just going to take us totally off track here, because what I was thinking about, something you said earlier on when you're telling your story about how, when you were building your business, you were really looking for individuals that would eventually become a great employees and a great part of the team.
Yeah.
When you were getting started, like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, they struggle so much with hiring the right people to
Yeah.
get them to where they're trying to go. So tell me a little bit about your philosophy on hiring and team building, and how that helped accelerate your business.
Yeah, I feel like you need to hit some sort of revenue mark before you start thinking about hiring employees. And my philosophy has been, um, you know, typically, like, once you've hit 100 or 150K in annual revenue, then you can kind of think about hiring employees. And people might be like, "Oh, gee, I don't want to do the books right now. Like, I don't know, that's still a little risky." That's fine. You can always do freelance to full time. And we've done that for some of our team members, where we find someone that we like, but we're not sure we have enough work for them. So we've started a freelance sort of relationship, and maybe that goes on for 6 months or a year, and then we hire them as full time employees. There are also freelancers that we have on our team that just want to stay freelancers. They like that sort of that deal. They're fine just coming and going and doing the work as it comes in. And those are and they'll stick with you for a number of years. So I know a lot of, like, startup founders are like, they always point to their head count as their success count, and whatever. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if you're creating product, like, you're creating real solutions and creating value in your company, I don't think it really matters which way you get there.
I love that
We talk about that all the time. Yes,
yeah,
revenue per employee far more important than just total number
employees.
of employees.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you're so many people are like, look at my team, look how big my team is. Well, I would rather have a smaller team that's more efficient and effective, right? That's
Yes.
doing great work and
Totally.
producing and has tons of output. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
You've been on quite a roll. You are in many sectors of business. So you have diversified your knowledge base and your skill level tremendously. What sort of advice do you have? Because I think that a lot of our viewers and listeners are not in startup, but they're in that middle spot. And what happens in that middle, that little part where you hit that plateau, some
Yeah.
decisions that have to be made, right? Because we've gotten out of that difficult element, but then there's, like, hey, to go to that next level, I have to make some decisions. What have you noticed are some of the pivotal decisions that need to be made if you're going to go from, like, okay, I'm doing okay to I'm doing great? And what are some of the sacrifices that people have to make? Because I think that those are the sacrifices are the hard part, because they're like, but I'm doing okay. So I'm not really trying to go back to when I was
Right.
making all of these sacrifices. What great advice do you have for people that will take them totally to that next level?
Well, this may sound unpopular with some people, but I think you really need to talk to your employees, right? You want to make sure that everyone like you can't just keep that like, oh, I'm checking a box here by hiring Susan or whoever. You need to talk to your employees, and I think like as a business owner or a leadership group, you should do it very like casually. It shouldn't have to be a, come into my office at 4 o'clock. Just be talk to your employees, make sure that they're happy in their role, make sure that they're, um, excelling in their role. Some people when they get in a role, think it's great, but then things shift, work comes off someone's plate and is moved to someone else's, and they want to know where are they going with this job. So keep on talking to your employees, making them happy. Really, your employees make your business. So if you I've always shied away from the whole like, you know you're at this top of the pinnacle and everyone else is below. I never understood that in an org chart sort of like thing, but like your employees make your business, so you need to keep on talking to them and making sure that they're happy. I've often heard that like once you hit employee number 50, a company changes dramatically. Any employee past 50 is a whole new level. You're going to need lots more systems for departments. You're going to have to make sure that people are efficient in like their own sort of like departments, and that's a whole new level of understanding. You're going to have to get a chief of staff if you don't already have one. There's going to have to be some growing pains of HR
Culture.
and yeah, like all that sort of like boring stuff.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to do it. So I've talked to many people that like they all say, hey, when we hit employee 50, we're no longer like this scrappy bunch anymore. We're like a real company,
I like the scrappy bunch though.
I know, we like under 50. We like it
Yeah,
when it's
exactly.
scrappy. It makes for good culture,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, because you did say one of the things about also being of your own life is really important in your ability to continue to grow and learn and increase your skill set. I mean, earlier on you said that's so hard when you are in a 9-to-5 job because you just learn the
Yeah.
one thing, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, like, I'm just curious at maybe who your top 3 mentors have been, and then maybe top 3 books you've read.
So for books, I've read 0 to 1. It's a fantastic book. And that's really the only business book I can actually point to. The others have been like just fiction and stuff like that. But mentors, I've kind of tried to follow, like I like architects, which sounds kind of weird. Like we have this architect quote on our website that's basically like, don't keep on recreating the wheel. Like change something to fit its mold and keep on innovating and iterating on that. And that's kind of like a through line to our business, is that the product is never done. You're always going to keep on iterating on this product and improving it and changing its form to address new things, and that's okay. But like I look at a lot of like the tech CEOs that are done a great job. The Salesforce CEO, he's done a great job. Bunch of them. I've never actually had a this is kind of embarrassing, I guess. I've never actually had like a formal mentor. Like I've always wanted one, but for whatever reason, it just never kind of, I've had many lunches with people that are more senior to me and stuff like that over the years, but I've never had someone say, I want to be your mentor. I've kind of, I don't know if this is like makes me sound really cool, but like I did it myself. I just learned, and I didn't need anyone. And yeah, so I would have loved to have a mentor, but it just never happened.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm sure that you are a mentor.
You're probably a mentor to others,
to many
now.
people.
Yeah.
I am
I
sure.
hope so.
And we'll make some connections, since you are the connection king, and Tristan has told us that you have made many connections. We will make some connections for you, and maybe along that way you can find someone that will say, I want to be
I
your
want to be
mentor.
your mentor.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. Help me out. I can still learn
be-
things.
because you are a visionary, because you have had so much success, and you are the architect of your own life. Um, where do you see yourself in 5 and 10 years? Tell us, predict for us how the story will continue to play out.
Um, well, I've kind of like started this business as a lifestyle business, and that's fine with me. I do think about possibly selling in a few years, but I think the next logical step is to start a VC fund. And that's probably what I'll do with a group of investors to innovate on the next thing, whatever, if it's Web3 or whatever. But that's probably the next step is that I'll create a fund, a VC fund with some investors, and try to create some infrastructure that works and a theme that can really tie together like what the fund is all about. I feel like there are tons of VCs, but they don't have a really good story. So if you have a really good story and brand and sort of like through line that you can kind of describe to people and a good story, then you'll be even more successful than if you just have $100 million fund. Like you need to have it needs to be you need to do it for a reason and have some goals behind it too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that because some people in startup situations, they can be dire,
Mhm.
and they have a big vision or a dream, and they just need that funding in order to keep that flame lit. But I have even told people before, and we get asked this quite a bit, but money is not money. So it's not money's not
Yes.
the same. And like you were saying, money that's coming from an organization or a person that has a story that is in alignment. I think alignment is super important because even if there's not alignment, but you had the money and you gave me the money, that lack of alignment
Yeah,
will screw up the
Yeah.
project, right? I
for
mean,
sure.
but the
Yeah.
money's there, but the alignment isn't. So I love that idea. I think that will be extremely successful. And you're right. You rarely see. Usually, funds are touting themselves on the money. We
Oh,
have
they're always
this amount.
cheerleaders for themselves. It's kind of disgusting after a while. You're just like, just sit down. We understand. You guys are great. Okay. But the amount of cheerleading that goes on is just ridiculous.
But I love that there's nothing to your story, much like the quote on your website, like the product's never fully finished, right? Even if you were to sell, you're going to have multiple iterations of what you do in your business
Right.
and yourself. So
For
it
sure.
really does go all the way
It
through.
applies in many places. Yes.
It does. I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, if you want to check him out, you can find him at millermedia7.com, millermedia7.com. His name's Tony, but it says
It
Anthony
says Anthony on
on the
there.
website. If you're going to Google him, type in Anthony. He's up to so many amazing things. And here's what I imagine. If you can find a way into his life, he's such a giver and a giving person. What a phenomenal resource for anybody who can find their way into his life. You'll be tremendously blessed. Tony, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks for dropping so many helpful gems on everybody.
I hope it helped. It was nice meeting you too.
It's a
Yes,
pleasure.
thank you so much. Well, all right, everybody. We'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast.